It's those gold coins, man. Bing, 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 bing. Like every single side quest has gold coins. You just got to be open to seeing them.
Do you actually believe you're boring, by the way?
I mean, I have boring tendencies. It's in the eye of the beholder. Sure, I'm sure there are people that think I'm boring. But again, I entertain myself. A side quest isn't a side hustle or a side product. It's like an unknown thing. You're related to your business entirely. And it's very uncomfortable for entrepreneurs because like, why would I give up my baby? And I really believe people can work on their business for like a year or two where it doesn't move anywhere. It just stays in this kind of like space of limbo. But maybe you're missing, again, maybe you're missing a piece that can be found elsewhere. I remember having a birthday party once, and I asked that question, what do you do when you're lost? And everybody at the table like got tight. They didn't want to answer the question because we work so hard doubling down on our identity and what we do. Like we have to be so defined by the value that we actually have.
It's very deep conversations we're having here. Schlaikjer, have you noticed that for a Thursday?
Joeri, this is my normal Thursday. That's why. Oh. That's why I get the boredom or weird comments sometimes. But yeah, this is my normal conversation.
I've been marking them. We've got like 23 points marked in this conversation. They're awesome. Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to the Solo Source podcast. My name is Joeri, and on this show, I have honest conversational chats with people who work for themselves, sharing real stories, insightful insights, is that such a thing? And even some practical tips that you can use on your solo journey. In this episode, I am talking to Amena Schlaikjer about side quests, when the path you're on stops making sense and something is pulling you off to the side into a different direction. Amena and I have known each other for about 20 years, and her career has been a fascinating one in innovation, wellness, coaching, entrepreneurship, with plenty of unexpected detours along the way. We'll talk about the difference between a side quest and a distraction, why being lost is not necessarily a bad thing, and why stepping away from your current path might help you to see something which you didn't see before. As always, I'll be back at the end with some of my thoughts, but for now, enjoy my conversation with Amena Schlaikjer. I know you well, Amena. We've known each other since 2007-8, something around that time, but other people might not know exactly who you are. Tell me a little bit about your journey through life and how you got here doing what you do now. It's a nice light question to start with.
Light question, journey through life. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm going to preface this with what this whole podcast is about. I'm on a side quest right now, and then I'll work backwards. For the past handful of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, I've been helping founders, like I call it flow forward towards their vision. And what that essentially means is I just help them with the building blocks of their business. They need clarity on how to pack it right, get it up and running, articulate what that vision is, and kind of build traction around it. And I do that through coaching sprints because I've discovered that it's not just an outer game problem, it's also an inner game problem. But then before that, I basically was in the world of design sprints and wellness innovation. And before that, I was in pure innovation with you, working back in China, early days, 2007. I actually started 2005 there with What If. And it's been an interesting trajectory since then over the past 20 years, drawing smaller circles to what I'm doing now.
And you say, interestingly, you said wellness innovation and then you said pure innovation. What's the difference?
Only that I discovered my domain. So, I think we were solving problems for large corporations across many domains, right? Whether it's like consumer goods, retail, hospitality, banking, like we did it all. When I left What If, I went on a sabbatical to get my yoga teacher's trainers. And I created this whole thing called Amena Wellness University because I had gone through a huge burnout. And in that process, I was like, ooh, I really want to focus on the customer that cares about lifestyles of health and sustainability. So I want to innovate for them. So then I did that. I launched my own agency called The Wellness Works. And then for 10 years, I worked with big companies, just innovating for the conscious consumer, as they say, or the LOHAS consumer.
What's LOHAS?
Lifestyles of health and sustainability. I think that's kind of all changed. You know how like the marketing industry comes up with consumer segment names and new terms, but that one's stuck for a good 10 years or so. And I rode that wave having loved doing events for those types of consumers. And so I had like all the people, I have all the insights around me. So I could deliver the insights to the corporate clients and do funky projects for like, I don't know, Johnson & Johnson's coming up with the future of elderly care, or Philips trying to innovate around consumer goods for oral health, or just random stuff like that. So it was a fun pond to be swimming in. It was my first experience niching down then.
Well, did you find that scary? Because some people say niching is good, other people say no, it's terrible. Stay general. Where's your thinking on that?
At the time, I was excited about it because I was passionate about that world, that domain of health and wellness. I was personally passionate about it. I just enjoyed creating ideas, solving problems in that space.
Oh, hey, quick one. If you are enjoying these episodes, you could do me a massive solid by leaving a like, leaving a comment or question that you might have, or share this with somebody who maybe themselves could use a bit of a detour, a bit of a side quest in their lives. All right, let's get back into the episode.
And I think I was at a point where I was willing to make a pivot because I had been at this innovation agency that we both know for 5 years, and I hit a ceiling. Like I was kind of the startup manager there. I was number 2. I helped set everything up in China for the director, and I couldn't progress to the next level, and nobody was willing to grow me. So I was kind of like, well, then I'm going to go start my own agency. And I did. I did my own micro agency and actually ended up working for some of the same clients. So it was scary, but it was also really like, oh my gosh, I can do this. You know, I did it.
Do you see that as brave, by the way? Because I know people say, oh my God, so brave. It's used more, I think, than when I was younger. Do you think that was a brave thing to do, or was that a necessity, or a bit of both?
I don't know, because I can't see it from the outside in. I was just taking a big leap, which probably felt kind of dumb at the time because that's what family was telling me, right? But, you know, I think because of the way I grew up, I'm willing to take a lot of risks. And when I'm coaching founders, I'll ask them this question often. I'll be like, what's the number in your bank account you're willing, like that you need in order to feel like you have a safety net to take a big risk? Like do something adventurous for 6 months, test a product, I don't know, start your own business. And it's across the board. I've got people being like, oh, I need about $1 million, or I need $150,000, or I need $10,000. What's hilarious is though they all carry the same fear around how much that needs to be. So my number was always quite low in taking risks.
Yeah.
I think I always just believed that I could figure it out, right?
Figure out ability is a skill, man. I'm telling you. Figure out ability is an uber skill.
Yeah.
Just the drive or the brain, or I don't know what that is, for people to just go, I'll figure it out.
Like, what's your dimension of figure out ability?
Figure out abilities, because I don't believe anybody's coming to save me. So it's from a very stoic point of view, and it's like, who cares? Like, we're only going to walk around this big ball for so many years. There might be something afterwards. I don't know. Till that time, let's just figure it out. Like, people have been doing that for thousands of years, so I'm sure I can. You've done a very, I guess, a very fascinating career of anything from, did you work in beauty a bit as well? I think entrepreneurship, innovation, wellness, you've kind of crossed all these different worlds. What's been the common thread in all of those things?
Creative problem solving. Always been that internal thread. And at the beginning, it was just me problem solving my own life. And then I think you start to pick up that mechanism and like it becomes clearer. And then you learn frameworks along the way, right? And then learning how to apply that. So I think it's connected to the figure out ability, but I just love creative problem solving. And it's the kind of thing that, we could have done in Shanghai at coffee shops for fun on a Sunday. As sad as that sounds, but it's at the heart of what I do. And I think what changes shape along the way is like the domain, your customer, the business model, like all of the cladding of that essence of creative problem solving just changes with the times, right? The heart of it's never really changed.
Different problems, different solutions maybe. Or are they the same problems? Because I am getting to a point where I'm like, I've seen this stuff before.
I would imagine with all that pattern recognition. And once you have time on your belt, you just start seeing the same stuff. And, you're probably from there turning that pattern recognition into pattern creation. So a lot of the founders that I worked with, they've got seasonality on their belt. And so when they start seeing the same problems, it's like, oh, I can take their sound bites and their philosophy and actually turn that into a proprietary system, like something they can own, as opposed to delivering a commodity or just any old program that someone else has created, right? So I like the meta value of that, like sitting above that and seeing their frameworks and trying to and helping them build them, actually.
You mentioned your childhood, as in some of the stuff came from your childhood.
Mm.
If your family, if I had given a like a magic ball when you were whatever 8 years old and said, what would no, I'll rephrase the question. If I'd gone to your family when you were 8 years old, would they have foreseen a future like this for you, where you're kind of hopping different careers, you're problem solving, you're living in different places? Was it already in the cards? That's what I'm asking. When you were young.
I don't think so. I think my family would have thought I would have like gone on stage or something because when I was really young, I was really extroverted. I'm a total introvert now, but I loved being in plays and singing and dancing and then that totally shifted. I don't know why. Yeah. Very different track.
You said that changed because I still see you as an extrovert. I know you need your, we all need our me time. I get that. I totally see you as an extrovert.
Mm.
No, I'm off.
No, I mean, my actual assessment is that I am an ambivert, but I sway more to introversion. And of course, all this stuff is circumstantial. You
Sure.
put me in a room of like engineers in the middle of China, I'm a total extrovert. But you put me in Silicon Valley, with a bunch of Californians that like to talk over each other, and I'm a total introvert. So that depends. But I think it's weird that maybe not weird. It's interesting how in my youth I expressed openly my creativity more, but now it's just I like to feel it internally now. And that might have been a product of moving every average 2 years since birth
Mm.
and the world getting louder and busier and more complex. I think I went in, not in a good or bad way. Just that ended up being where I was more comfortable.
Why did you move every 2, 3 years?
Yeah, my dad was a diplomat, so we were constantly moving. I actually counted the other day how many houses I've moved, and it's been 45 homes.
Wow.
I'm a really good friend to have when it comes to packing up houses. Yeah, a lot of movement. So I think because of that, I've adapted to figuring out what home feels like internally, and that's a very inside process.
I think so. And we've had this conversation before. I think all of us who've lived abroad, for like Tremaine included, who've lived abroad, you start going like, "What is home? What does that mean?" And
Yeah.
I've moved quite a bit, but that's a lot. I didn't know it was that much, by the way. What do you think that's done to you? As in, what has that created? How has it helped? How has it hindered you moving so much and changing scenarios?
Yeah. I think it's hindered me because it has made me more introverted. I think entrepreneurship, it helps me have a little more extroversion in there. So like for me to do outreach, to go out there or like get on stage or even do things like this, it takes more out of me as opposed to, just kind of tinkering at home. But where it's really served me is I'm extremely adaptable. I mean, I've done personality tests for clients and employers before, and they're like, "This does not match who you are," because I might have trait based skills or ways of showing up in my behavior, but because of my environment, that's totally overrided who I am.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with because you suggested a topic, the side quest for this conversation, and when you first said that, I thought you meant side piece. I'm like, well, that's a very different it's a very different conversation. But side quest, you said side quest. What is a side quest first and foremost?
So I've had it didn't really come to me until I had a couple of them, but I realized that a side quest is like this intentional detour off of kind of a foggy path where you're going to receive unknown gifts, right? And you need to have a couple of these experiences before you intentionally take a side quest. So if entrepreneurship is like a video game, right? And you're armored up, you've got your weapons, you've got your resources, you're going to go slay the dragon or save the princess, and you're working your levels and you're moving in this game. And then there are moments in this game where it gets extremely foggy, and it's seemingly like you don't know, which you've kind of lost the reason why you're playing this game. And it feels uncomfortable and you feel like you have to charge up and continue, but there's a glowing door to the side that's calling your attention and it keeps popping up. And you're like, what is this glowing door? I'm not supposed to go that way. But then it hits you that you need to take that door in order to level up. And you're going to take it not knowing what's on the other side, but you're going to orient yourself to discovering something there. And I think those can be really helpful when we get to murky moments on this path of entrepreneurship.
Isn't that more of a distraction, or just something to divert your attention from, you got your enterprise, which is the mission or the game. Isn't this just something that goes like, come here? What's the difference between the side quest and the distraction?
Totally valid. I think it's very much, it's an internal and an external one. So the external aspect of it is, there's really nothing out there. Like you're getting numb to your environment and there are no answers in front of you, right? And you know that you've done the grind, you've done maybe several levels, but you've just hit a place where you're like, I can feel there's nothing here for me. And that's when it goes internal. And you start asking yourself, okay, maybe there's something in me that needs to come alive again in a different way. So I'm going to take the side quest and see what happens. I would imagine it's like a supercharged version of holiday or going on a trip. When we travel, when you set that kind of trip where you kind of know where you're going, but you don't know where you're staying or what you're actually going to be doing. Like it's an empty itinerary and you're just going to let yourself be driven through that holiday adventure. You're going to take something home. Right.
Well, what about the goal then? So if the goal is to get from A to B in that game and there's a side quest, at what point do you go back to your goal? Because I would argue that some people might say, well, the whole thing about being a successful entrepreneur is to keep your eye on the ball, right? And kind of be willing to spend enormous amount of time and energy learning and tacking, but moving towards that thing. That's why I was asking about the distraction. When do you go back to the main goal, if there is such a thing?
I think when you get the resources. When you kind of go, you like bing bing, you one up and
the coins.
You can grow your capacity. Yeah, that's starting to date me. That's very Nintendo, Mario Brothers. But but you grab those resources and then you there's an end, right? You have to kind of give yourself an end too, because I think it could turn into a distraction if you don't.
Tell me about one of your side quests and how that's changed the trajectory of your life or business for that matter.
Sure. This was kind of around like COVID era. And I was on that like, no, just push through. You've had this agency for 10 years. You just have to figure out how to do it online. Go remote. You've been remote for 3 years already. And then this COVID thing happened. You should be able to handle this. And there's a lot of should on myself. And I was just obliterated, exhausted from all of it, everything that was going on in the world at the time. And honestly, the last thing I wanted to do was recharge my agency with a slightly different format. And so I was like, I need a side quest. And that's when I actually I decided I'm going to join this world-class outfit, small, medium enterprise. It was called the Flow Research Collective. And I helped them build, what I think was a world-class coaching product. And I had never been in an environment in my professional career where I was with extremely switched on people working on super cool ideas, and thrown into like modern tech stack, high octane environments. Before that, I was flip charts and Post-it notes and, my Google Drive account. And then it was like 14 tech apps at once, working a team across 30 people. So I was so challenged that in the end, I actually wasn't in flow anymore. And that's what gave me the signal to get out.
And how has it changed you then? How did it change you, your life or your business?
Yeah. So I stepped away from agency model. of doing the sort of wellness innovation for large corporations. And then I wanted to work with founders because the experience of working with um, just directly with founders and coaching them was really exciting. And at this point, I actually already had a coaching degree because I went and got one thinking it was going to be the next horizon of leadership. And it is now. And so I started to weave coaching into my design sprints for founders. So I changed the clientele, I changed slightly my methodology, and it was just focused much more on the person and founder product fit, not necessarily product market fit. And that became, yeah, that was more interesting.
And tell me more about that, because I didn't quite get that last bit. So you focus more on founder market fit. What's the difference between founder market fit and product market fit?
Founder product fit. So
Sorry, go on.
not everybody can work at the like huge venture scale or scope. So it's like everybody's got their mama bear, papa bear, baby bear, right size fit sort of venture that would work for you and your personality. And I think we get drawn towards the idealism in entrepreneurship, and everybody wants to go and build either, I don't know, a funded back venture or whatever their version, because I think everyone might have their own idealized version of what a venture looks like, but it may not fit who they are and how they want to live their life. So we design it around the founder's life and how they want to spend their day, right? Because I, even though I say things like it's about flowing towards your vision, I think visions are a little bit overhyped, and it's important to set your heading, but actually it's figuring out what systems are you setting up day to day on the ground around tinkering and solving problems for yourself and your daily life and your business that count. So how are you going to set up those internal structures, right?
You said at one point, you mentioned to me that for a while you were a bit ashamed of the side quest. As in you felt a bit bad about it. You felt a bit shame about it. Why was that? And why has that changed?
I think you hit the nail on the head with this earlier. It's like there's a culture around entrepreneurship, which is like, oh, you just got to push through. You got to like hustle, grind, stick with it. If you need encouragement, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. It's kind of a very masculine world, actually, the descriptors around entrepreneurship. And so seating back or resting back or slowing down to speed up or taking side quests felt shameful. They felt like distractions. But I dug deep and I went, I know internally that I'm someone that can handle, a year of misery and be okay. I can deal with struggle. I can deal with discomfort for a really long time. So there was something to the openness that happens when you kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and figure out if you're driving down the right path, if you haven't missed a sign along the way on this road. And so then I started, looking at side quests as being these very intentional moments to slow down or to detour a little bit on purpose. And I think they can be by choice, which is like, I think what I did in COVID, I'm not going to go full force with my old agency model, or they can be sidelines that you reframe. So this last side quest, the side quest that I'm on now, is a product of life hit hard, death in the family, money's tight. It's just like a moment in entrepreneurship where you're just like, what's more important here, right? And I decided to stop. An opportunity came up, and I made that intentional detour without it feeling like a sideline, because I realized shame is not helpful in any situation.
Does everybody need a side quest, in your opinion? So
No.
here's my case. Sorry, I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So the people listening to this are most likely working for themselves. Most likely there's some kind of business coach, a consultant, a facilitator, somebody selling professional services. Particularly when things are a bit tougher, you become even more aware that you're doing everything. So you're the salesperson, you're the face, you're doing the website, you're doing the finances. In most cases, some people outsource some stuff. But you've already taken on so many different roles, so many different hats, where maybe taking on something else on the side, a side quest, is either really going to help them, or it might actually add on more stuff that they're already doing. So my question then was like, do you think a side quest is for everybody? And if so, why or why not?
So, no, I don't think it's for anybody. I think it's only for those who embrace it. I think it's like holiday. Not everybody needs trips or vacation. Like, not everybody likes to travel, actually. So, to each his own. But there's something in the, you mentioned like they get overwhelmed, and would taking a side quest be something additional? I don't think a side quest is something that you add on to what you're already doing. I think it's a total stop or pause on your business and taking a detour. Like, your business might somehow maintain itself without you putting that much effort into it. You're focused on the side quest. You're not focused on the business anymore. So in that way, it's not a shiny, bright object because you're not adding.
I'm kind of thinking where it sits in my mind. I'm kind of
Mhm.
thinking, so I run the magic sauce kind of, well, you know what the magic sauce does. And then this is the solo sauce, something I'm building for long term. Am I just building to business or is this a side quest? Maybe we don't
Oh,
have to define. Maybe we don't have to define it.
yeah.
I'm just trying to get in my mind what it is.
Yeah. Well, the way again, it's however you're going to define it. The way that I see
Sure.
it from the outside is a side quest isn't a side hustle or a side product. It's like an unknown thing irrelated to your business entirely that you would do, right? And it's very uncomfortable for entrepreneurs because, like, why would I give up my baby?
Yeah.
Right? They,
Why would I leave it behind here at the camp
why
and go
would I
off?
leave it behind? Exactly. And so it's not for everybody. I think it's an acquired taste. But for me, it's really helped kind of level up and add either dimensionality or clarity to what it is that I was already doing, because I was just hitting walls. And I really believe people can work on their business for like a year or two where it doesn't move anywhere. It just stays in this kind of like space of limbo. Um, and that's fine because in a way it's, I don't know, it's fermenting maybe, right? And maybe there's something that comes out of that. But maybe you're missing again. Maybe you're missing a piece that can be found elsewhere.
Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
That's a great line. I'm somebody who would never feel bad about, like, never feel ashamed about being lost. I remember having a birthday party once and I asked that question, what do you do when you're lost? And everybody at the table like got tight. They didn't want to answer the question because we work so hard doubling down on our identity and what we do when we practice saying the one liner that describes what we do all the time, right? Like, we have to be so defined by the value that we actually have. And a lot of times entrepreneurs are lost. When I'm coaching them, they might be forcing a sentence of clarity, but really what I'm sensing is a sense of overwhelm, anxiety, doubt, fear, being stuck, being lost. And I think there's something to a culture where you're just needing to be, you need to force performing or being a certain way that can be detrimental, right? And so, I don't know, entrepreneurship for me is not just a vehicle for making a ton of money. Entrepreneurship is getting to know yourself better.
I was having a chat this morning over coffee at my coffee place. Somebody about how people over optimize their lives. So everything now is optimized and we need to maximize everything. You know, your face needs to look a certain way, you need to sound a certain way, you need to walk a certain way, you need to have the perfect kiss, the perfect wife, the perfect husband, the perfect garden, the perfect car, and everything is optimized. And because of that, people lose a sense of adventure, maybe. And I think it's putting incredible stress on themselves. The Netherlands is very much everything's cordoned off here. Everything has a place. There's
Uh,
no wild nature anymore. There's no wild thinking anymore, which is very sad.
yeah.
Maybe the goal of that side quest is to break those patterns, to get to know yourself, or just to go on a bit of an adventure. Am I thinking the right way? Like it might be a bit of an adventure? I guess it is. It is an adventure, a side quest. Yeah.
I think that's a mindset that depends on the person. A side quest, it can be like very intense and mission oriented, perhaps, or if you're a little bit more playful and fun loving, it can totally be an adventure. Yeah. But it's different to what you're doing now. And you're definitely taking a leap, um, taking a leap towards your zone of genius, because you might have just been, you mentioned it earlier. It's like When you run your own business, you're doing sales, you're doing fulfillment, you're doing design, you're doing, lead
Website
generation,
building. Yeah.
website building, you're making video, like you're doing everything. And like you can't be in your zone of genius if you're doing everything. And so we end up spending the majority of our time in this murky middle of competence, or even more dangerously, this is an idea from Gary Hendricks, actually, the getting stuck in your zone of excellence, because you're excellent at all those things, Joeri, because you've been doing them for 10 years now. But you might be only spending 5% of your time in your zone of genius. And that's where you should be spending 80% of your time, right? So how do we shift up in that direction? And a lot of people, I think, don't really land on what their zone of genius is.
Because
they get stuck in the doing everything. Like, wouldn't it be great if solopreneurs could find a way to link arms so that all those aspects of the business that are not their zone of genius, they could outsource? And that's coming here with agentic AI. I think we're getting to that space. But if we could spend more time in zone of genius, I think we could deliver more of the work that matters.
I believe that. I was going to ask you, for people listening, there might be some people listening here, they're a bit stuck. They're a bit like, I've been on this for 2 years. I'm not really seeing it. Not really getting the results, particularly not right now, because the market is down. For anybody listening, it's not just you, it's everybody's. Most people having a hard time now. For the people listening who are maybe a bit stuck, or maybe a bit struggling, what would you like them to hear?
That there is no shame in taking a side quest, right? And I will say that with the caveat of, okay, really pay attention to the signals externally and internally. So the external signals of like the market is going to tell you if your model's working or not. Like if your niche is too narrow, you don't have enough customers. If it's too broad, you're working on projects you don't want to work on and don't really know how to fulfill. The internal signals are going to be more like, are you just overwhelmed, or do you have anxiety? Those things aren't necessarily reasons to take a side quest. They're just reasons to, I don't know, slow down a little bit or create some focus. But if you are numb, if you're numb to your surroundings and you're in the wrong place and everything in your mind is telling you, yes, charge forward, but everything in your body is telling you, no, there's something else I'm missing, then take a side quest.
So there could be an opportunity. Somebody offers you something, or something's laid out in front of you. Somebody needs help somewhere. You've never thought about that. That could be it.
Yeah, exactly. And they might be offering you one thing and you're like, oh, that seems attractive. Yeah, I'd go for that. But recognize that may not be the resource you're looking for. So I mean, it's not the steady retainer fee. No, maybe it's something you're going to learn from that partnership or the product they're producing, or in leading a team, whatever it might be that you join for the side quest you picked. Just be intentional about going on it and being open and not knowing the answer.
And how do you stay open?
It's a great question.
I know.
Do you? That is a state, Joeri. Being open is,
not judging, I guess.
Yeah, it's being in a space where you know you don't have the answer. You're not right. You're expansive. You're letting things in. You're questioning everything. You're a kid again. Frankly, I'm like this side quest that I'm on right now, and again, raising my hands and going, I am comfortably lost. This is a space I'm in where I'm being really open to the gifts that I have in coaching and how that is where things came most alive in me when I was doing my coaching sprints with founders. So there's something in there, right? That's building. Yeah, but I don't know the answer yet. Beardy moment.
Maybe you don't have to have the answer yet, but you do need to have the answer to these next 10 questions.
Oh,
because
yay.
it is time for the lightning round. This is where a jingle comes in on the screen and will say, the lightning round. Because they're like cheese.
Nice segue, by the way. That was great.
The lightning round.
What did you want to be, Amena Lee Schlaikjer, when you were 9 years old?
A dancer.
What kind of dancer, for context?
I think at the time a jazz dancer. I wanted to be a dancer choreographer because I remember dressing up my little sister in glitter outfits and coming up with moves. Yeah.
Moves like Jagger or jazz hands? What do we think now? A bit more.
A little bit of both, yeah.
What's the best thing about working for yourself in Vietnam?
I would say the rice paddies. And I can have a really crazy, long, busy day in front of the computer, just having, working hard, working at hyperspeed. And then I can go outside and see the buffalo herder and the people in the rice paddies and be reminded about the true pace of life. I think, when you think about human scale in cities, I think there's human speed in the online environment, and we forget what that feels like, unfortunately.
If I were to look at your browser, see all your tabs, what would I notice about your tabs on your browser?
That I don't have any. I clean up my browser
Really?
every single day. I have a blank desktop. I am super minimalist. At one point, when I was working for the Flow Research Collective, I had grayscale on my phone because I was trying to minimize the cognitive load in my life. It's just super minimal. Even my house is very minimal. I'm a bit of a boring one, you know.
I don't think you're boring at all. I think
I have a
that's just.
boredom. I have a boredom practice too. I count backwards from 1,000. So I just dopamine depletion is an issue in this world, and so I actively work at it.
Do you actually believe you're boring, by the way?
I mean, I have boring tendencies. It's in the eye of the beholder. Sure, I'm sure there are people that think I'm boring, but again, I entertain myself.
Are you entertaining me now? We're having this internal conversation, so it's all working for everybody right now.
Yay!
Wonderful. Okay, moving swiftly on to the next question. Browser tabs, talking about that one. What is a side quest you're really glad you went on or you took?
I think helping my then partner develop his mind body wellness program, mind body performance program called Weightlessness. And it has become the way that I hold myself and build capacity in life. Like it's just stuck with me as one of those Swiss Army knife elegant systems that I will take through life.
You can carry with you. Nice.
Yeah.
What is one skill everybody should learn?
How to breathe.
Tell me more about that. I can breathe. What's wrong with my
Mhm.
breathing?
How to breathe so that you learn how to regulate your system and so that you have a little more control over the distance you can create between stimulus and response. And that'll really help you respond with skill in life rather than react.
Respond, don't react.
Yeah, Mr. Schultz.
Idiots react. Smart people respond.
Idiots. Yeah.
Mountains, ocean, or city?
Mountains and ocean together.
Not a city?
No, I'm done with cities. Grew up in metropolises my whole life. And I think that's why I've stayed in Hoi An for so long.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
If someone gave you a free year with all expenses paid, side quest, what would you do?
You know what I would do? I would continue doing what I'm doing now, but I would rent a big villa and hire a full-time cat sitter who was really good with my cats so that I could be a little more mobile and spend some real quality time with my parents. That's what I would do. And just keep working the way I'm working. Yeah.
What does success mean to you then today?
I think finding work where you just learn how to be more yourself and have the courage to build from there.
It's very deep conversations we're having here. Schlaikjer, have you noticed that for a Thursday?
Joeri, this is my normal Thursday. That's why. That's why I get the boredom or weird comments sometimes. But yeah, this is my normal conversation.
I've been marking them. We've got like 23 points marked in this conversation. They're awesome.
Great.
All right, last one for you then. What do the best side quests all have in common?
Oh, you got these good questions. It's those gold coins, man. Bing, 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 bing. Like every single side quest has gold coins. You just got to be open to seeing them. Yeah.
What are the gold coins?
For each side quest, it'll be different, and it's different depending on where you are in your path. But there are these unknown gifts within the side quest. Like you don't take the side quest to do the thing that initially drew you in there. You stay open and curious, and something else emerges in the side quest. That's the real takeaway.
That's a beautiful point to land on. Amena Lee Schlaikjer. Where can people find you?
They can find me at untappedlab.co and then my LinkedIn profile. Otherwise, that's it. I'm terrible at social media, pretty much on purpose.
I've noticed. It's perfectly fine. I think a lot of people want what you have. So I'll make sure to leave the links below. People, look out for the side quests. If you are a bit stuck, if you are a bit, a bit numb, I think you said nicely. Maybe you look to the right and to the left a bit. Look a bit off the center and see what doors light up around you. There might be some gold coins in there for you, for the taking.
Thank you, Joeri. This has been a nice little micro side quest. It's been really great coming back into your orbit and seeing you shine in a slightly different way.
Wonderful. I appreciate you. Well, before I leave you with my thoughts, I just want to say a massive thank you to Amena for sharing here, taking the time to be part of the Solo Sauce podcast. Make sure you reach out to her. I'll leave the links in the description below. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for my weekly newsletter called The Solo Sauce, where I share my best ideas and thinking for people on their own solo and independent journeys. So here's some of my thoughts. I think there is a bit of a difference between a shiny object and taking a deliberate detour. A shiny object takes you away from what you're doing because sometimes you might be uncomfortable where you are, or it's getting a bit tough and you just get distracted by other things on the side. But a deliberate detour can actually give you some perspective, some distance, and some learning which you otherwise wouldn't have. Now, the difficult part, of course, is knowing what the difference is or where the difference is, and that might not always be clear. So Amena talked about paying attention to internal and external signals. So for instance, is the market telling you that something isn't working, that you're maybe heading in the wrong direction? Are you simply a bit overwhelmed, a bit burned out, and in need of some new energy and some new focus? Or have you become completely numb to the path that you're on right now? I mean, clearly, you don't have to throw away everything when things get a little bit hard, a little bit uncomfortable, but there are also moments where just blindly trotting forward is also its own avoidance, and maybe that thing calling you from the side, calling you in a different direction isn't a distraction, but it might just be the detour that helps you find your way forward. Anyway, a couple of thoughts for you. I hope you're well. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Make it a great day.